you doing? My name's Anthony Gray of Grayscale Painting, and I'm here to conduct an interview of my brother. I'm a little bit partial. He has a very unique man cave, and during the interview you'll see photos and video of what he's put together from absolutely zero. So he didn't do it necessarily overnight. So over the years he's added on and added on, taking influences from everywhere in all facets. So we'll dip into his brain and see how all of this came about, why it came about, and his fascination with designing audio video components and rooms for the totally immersive theater sound. Okay, and as you see during the video, or you will see during the video, you'll see all of the bobbleheads and action figures and collectibles that he has cleverly mounted all over the place. And he's done this 98% by himself. He did it on his own. If something is a little too heavy, he asked one of his buddies to help him out. But other than that, from the design of the place to laying down of the carpet, it was exclusively him. He does offer his services to whoever's interested, but he can do it on a budget, and he can do it if your means require you to do so. But anyway, without further ado, I will introduce you to my brother, and we'll dip into his brain and see how all of this come about. All right, stay tuned. First of all, thank you for allowing me to do the interview and all that good stuff. And the first question I want to ask you is, how did you first even consider of going into audio video?
Okay, when I was younger, and I would have to say like in my teens, maybe 15, 16, somewhere around there. I used to be a gamer, still am. You know, but one of my games of choice was Metroid. So what I had was this little, hell, I didn't even have a name for the thing. There wasn't a name on it. It was so old. But I believe it was like a tube amp, and it was a 2-channel setup. And with that tube channel setup, you know, I had got permission from an old drummer at the church I used to go to. He gave me his bass amp. I took that thing apart, and somehow I jerry-rigged it so it played nothing but subs, you know, just the low end. And I didn't know frequency or any of that stuff, or I didn't even know what a gain knob was, you know. It's just a couple of knobs on it, you know, and it sounded good. So it just made my Nintendo NES sound good, you know.
Right.
So that was my first time I actually delved into it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when did you seriously start putting in the beginning? Start putting your first major system together?
Well, I got the inspiration actually from you. You know, you had this one setup, you know, in one of the apartments that you had. I went upstairs, and I think you were in the bathroom, so you had to do something. You know, I had visited you for whatever reason it was. I came down to visit, and while you were in the bathroom or in the back or wherever you was doing, I walked up, you know, and I mean the layout was absolutely meticulous. I'd never seen anything like that. You know, it was set up, had your LCR, you know, your left, your center channel, and your right, you know, and then you had your surrounds, and then it was something called a surround back. I was like, you know, I've never heard of a surround back. I think I'm not sure if you had one or you had two, but either way, it was back there. And when I looked at, I just now I didn't hear anything because it wasn't turned on or anything else like that. I was so mesmerized by how everything was nice. It was all together and it seemed like it was equally spaced. I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
it was something. So I that was the first time I ever seen anything like that. Um, but when I actually got into it, was years and years later, and that's when I was much much older, of course. I just came back from the military, and my mind wasn't on that then, but I would have to say by the time it was, 2012 or 2013, somewhere around there, when the internet started to really pick up and stuff like that. I met a guy online named Yaz, and through Yaz, I met someone named. Now Yaz was no slouch. He had from that time, he had all the top stuff. I mean, he had just got himself a brand new Sony projector. The PS4 was out. It was just out, and he had it running through his projector. And I believe he was in Australia. This guy, and again, I thought it was a nut job, because he had, he's playing a PS4 through a projector. I'm like, I never made the connection with that ever. So, through him, I met someone that was even more into it. And shout out to Mario Zamet, and his channel. He's actually a YouTuber, and his channel is number one cinema. It was number one home theater. I believe that's his channel.
Number one home theater.
Yes. So, now around this time, I had a Microsoft or 360, and the flat panels were just kind of were out. So I had a flat panel on the wall, and I had my furniture was kind of set up like a theater, kind of sorta. I was just getting my bearings on it, you know what I mean? And I was talking to Mario, and I sent a picture to him, and he was like, "I see what you're doing, but that's not what you want. What you need is a projector." And I told him, "Man, that's you're far fetched. Only rich people, can afford projectors and do all that stuff and be all fancy smancy and have a home theater, all that other stuff. I never even heard of the concept ever, actually, And he was like, "No, actually, they'll do it. And then he showed me his room.
All right.
And when he showed me his room, it was game over. I was like, "Can I actually do that?" And he's like, "My friend, you have to try. You got to get your projector." So, needless to say, I will have to say probably that week. That week, I got on eBay at the time. I got on eBay and I was looking, and I saw this one projector for $89. I believe it was $89. It was all black. I was like, okay, it fits the color scheme for what I want for right now. So I got that thing, and it came like 2-3 days later. And again, my living room wasn't set up for it, so I took it to my bedroom, plugged that thing in, and I couldn't believe. I hooked it up to my phone actually, and I put an image on that thing. I could not believe how clear, how crisp, and how sharp that image was, and how big it was. It was 4 or 5 times bigger excuse me, than my flat screen TV, which I paid like $600-700 or more for. I couldn't believe this thing, So needless to say, I would have to say that very same day I put my order for my first screen, and it was 100-inch screen. I didn't know anything about contrast. I didn't know anything about um, any of it, the focus or how far the projector needs to be away from the screen. I didn't know anything about that. Only thing I knew is that I needed a screen. So within a couple of days, that screen came in, and that was the start of, at that time, I called it Coca-Cola, really, Cole's home theater. Iron Man didn't actually come until later.
All right.
All right.
Okay. All right. Now, I remember when you had gotten the first screen, and even I was pleasantly surprised because I remember back in the old school days what them projectors used to look like with them screens. And I'm like, that's the first image I thought about when you said you're getting a screen. Until I came and I looked at it and see how sharp it was. I'm like, oh boy, they came a long way,
Yeah.
From old school days. So, yeah. Now, the next thing, okay, you discovered the screen. I want to know how you decided upon or found out about the worth, the effectiveness of speakers.
Okay, well, I have to give a shout out to Youth Man, and finding his channel. Youth Man's channel, it put me on to a lot of what I know now, and his content ranges from one side of the spectrum to the other, and not only that, he's actually entertaining, very entertaining to watch. So once I actually started to get into his content and learning from what he was doing, and of course I did some studying on my own, and going to different content creators like the Villa Man, and there's Scott Newby. Bass Brings Us Together. That guy is very, very pivotal to my journey. There's one more. I can't think of his first name, but his last name is Chavez. But looking at Mr. Chavez, his theater, got me into the two-tier. But back to the speaker part. Going to and watching Youth Man and his journey. I guess he had a buddy of his build the second riser. I already had a concept, just for me going to the movies myself, and I wanted to do something, that's never been done, at least not in my region, So when I saw how Youth Man had his setup, I knew it was something that can be improved upon, because I had already did a second tier, but I wanted to make it bigger, stronger, and I wanted to be more in your face. So once I started to delve into those YouTube streets more and more, and I found different content creators, I started going on Pinterest and watching other guys that were actually into the hobby, and I just wanted to go ahead and make my interpretation of it and my version of it. And a lot of my creativity actually happened when I was away from the room. I can be, and at that time I was in college, and I was in my machining course, which helped me out a lot because it taught me how to better hone the skills of using tools and different toolages and things of that nature, and I knew how to measure more precisely. through that course. So, like I tell even my students, a lot of what we do is relative to the next. So although I may be studying one craft, a lot of what we do can cross over to something else that crossovers to something else, and so on and so forth. Um, so I just started to learn how to put a lot of the things together. All right, and that included, like I said, with watching Youth Man and Scott Newby with how they had their systems together. I put all of what I was. I made my interpretation of a theater with the inspiration of those fellas.
All right. Okay. Well, getting back to those speakers, I noticed that you do have certain brands, like certain speakers, all of one brand. And even if they're different brands, they're still the same. As I'm looking around, okay, and I do remember one time you were all Sony all the time at one point, but as you delved into it and everything, and whatever suited your needs, you went on to other brands. So explain to me and to anybody else who wants to get something set up like this, how important having the same brand of speakers or anything of that like.
Number one, this is an expensive hobby. All right, so when you jump into it, if you can find the same type of speakers and run all your speakers the same, will be the best scenario for you. Because you want the tonality the same as much as possible. All right, and you can change through calibration, through your AV, or however you want to do it, inside the system itself. But as far as your actual hardware, your speakers, you want them to be pretty much the same. So I had Sony, but they were different types of speakers, and as I was learning, I just knew that I wanted the same of everything. So and I started to learn about the size of the voice coils, and what speaker can handle more for less power being thrown at them, so on and so forth. So once I started to learn more, I decided, upon changing from Sony to right now, I run the Clips reference series. All right, so they have it's really a sweet sound, and I had a problem with bass too. Sony, just for whatever reason, it could not give me the bass. I was struggling for years to get the bass into this room. And then I remember, I'm not sure if it was Youth Man. I know he ran Clips first, and now he's he's running JTR. So I'm not to that point yet, not yet. But I did away with the Sonys. Actually, I still have them here somewhere. They're floating around. And now I have all Clips subs, including a big boy that's behind the screen. They're all 12s, and they're all run through a mini DSP and calibrated, so they all punch and they all fire off at the same time. They're all gain matched, gain level matched. So when you hear an explosion, it all fires pretty much all at the same time. They're calibrated to fire off at the same time. It was a step up for me as far as tonality, You can hear everything very clear, crisp, just leagues above what Sony had to offer. And that even included the AV. I even got rid of the AV and I went Onkyo. You know, and from Onkyo, running my height channels, I have a separate amp that powers those. All right. So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. We probably won't have the time to jump into it for me to explain channel for channel. And some of the speakers that I do have, like my mains and my LCR, and my surround backs and a couple of my height or my Atmos speakers are all Klipsch. Now my height channels, they're actually another brand. They say Rockville, but behind the Rockville are Super Tweeters, because I changed all the woofers out, and I changed all the tweeters out.
I remember that.
Yeah, so I did this 6 times, and soldered the connections and so on and so forth to give you that high shrill sound when you need it. So
yeah, you really did put your all into it. For someone who is really seriously into their audio video, tell everybody how many speakers do you have in this room?
Oh, good Lord. Was it 11, 5, 2? Which is the in ceiling speakers are the 2. The 5 is just 5 subwoofers, and the 11 that they all include the LCRs, surround, the high channels.
In your front.
Yeah, absolutely. So
11, incredible.
Yep.
And I know for a fact how good it sounds. There's just no way for me to show how this thing cranks up. But he can really shake this. He lives in a brick building, and trust me, he can shake it.
Don't tell Scott that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to keep it down under wraps.
Man, please. Yeah, you can definitely when he's home. So yeah, and this is just the front room. So no, it's magnificent. But now, as people hear you talk and hear me talk in this interview, they're seeing clips of what you've done with the place. So let's talk about those Coca-Cola machines you got here, and they are all functional. They are refrigerated. They all work, and the room is surrounded with them. So yeah, how did you get into this theme of the Coke machines?
Well, that inspiration came from Pops, of my father. So, my father by trade was a mechanic. He was a mechanic, and he refinished cars. Very good with his hands. He did a lot. But one thing I do remember, a few things I actually remember, but this in particular is he had a RC Cola machine in his shop. I think I only used it a couple times, but the fact that it was in there, that, and I believe he had an old Cadillac in the back. Mm-hmm. But that was it was his era. So I just looked at the rounded edges of the top of the machine. I looked at the glass and how you had to actually pay the money first, and it's not like how the modern day machines are, where it has the glass at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So when the actual product falls out, it gets delivered to the bottom of the glass, and you can reach in and grab. No, you would have to actually open the door up, reach in, and grab whatever product it was.
Yep.
Almost like it was a trust system. Mm-hmm. in a way. Grab your product and shut the door, and it locks. From there. But I always wanted that machine, and I never forgot. It's like, wow, to me it blew my mind that my pops had something like that in his shop. So of course, that was something that I wanted for myself. So what I did was I found replicas. So in a way, I guess it's keeping what he liked alive in me.
Right.
All right. So with these machines, my theater's name at the beginning was Cole's Theater, and then it went from Cole's Theater to Cole's Coca-Cola Iron Man Theater, and now it's whittled down to Iron Theater, but I have I pay homage to my father's memory, and a little bit of the time period with the Coca-Cola machines. Cool. So, although Coca-Cola is no longer in the title of it, it's just Iron Theater, but the Coca-Cola remnants is still around.
Sure.
And so is the time period, right. Because if you went to the theaters, or if actually seen the theaters from like the 30s, the 40s, and it's you probably might have dwindled away maybe in the 50s, but they had, like in the grand ballrooms, they had the fringes on the curtains.
Right.
So I want to bring that out in some type of elegance to the aesthetic, along with paying homage.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I got that from. So that was was the ode to my pops.
Very good, very good. Well, he would be proud. He would be.
Oh, I can hear him laugh now.
Yes, he would be proud. What I do also find interesting is that how you did the color coordination with the theme of Iron Man and the Coca-Cola machine, and you complemented the red and the gold very well in the room. Obviously accented with the black theater chairs, and you got the thicker curtains here. The aesthetic looks pretty wild. Everything is like together in here. So, like I said, people are looking at this even as we're talking. They're looking at the clips. Next is that computer room, and as we're talking, they're going to see the picture of the computer and the screens and everything. How did that come about?
Well, if I can go all the way back to when I first started talking about the Microsoft, the 360 video game that I had here, but along with that, I also had, again, I ran Sony, so I had Sony DVD players, and I even had a HD DVD player as well. And the Microsoft used to play that as I still got the discs, but at one point I ran nothing but physical media, which is the best way to go when you want if you want lossless sound and
right.
However, after watching a movie, doesn't matter how immersive that you get with your theater, there's something that happens. You lose some of that immersiveness when it's time for you to change a disc. When the movie's over, you literally have to turn the lights on, get up, and listen to the mechanical whir of the thing powering down, slowing the disc out, and spitting it out.
Right.
And you guys are coming off this high of being, let's talk about maybe you were watching Back to the Future, okay, and that time period was like 1980s, and that was present at that time, and then they went way back into like the 50s.
Right.
So after that, a movie like that will go off, and in your mind, you're still there. You're still with Michael J. Fox, you know. And then when it's time, when the movie goes off, it's almost like, oh man, you're brought back to, the immersiveness ends. You're brought back to reality.
Right.
Now you got to, the reality means you have to get up. You have to agree with everybody, figure out what movie you're fumbling through cases. So I wanted to dead all of that. Enough of that. So what I decided to do is I learned about, and this is kind of, something, because I'm a guy that used to hate the internet. I could not write an email to save my life. And text messages, what was that? And I raged against the machine for a very long time. So now I have, I have a dual NAS, connected to a Plex, and I also have a Zedu, and I have the old Zapiti now. I still use that, but in my media room, where my pub tables, I have a 5.1 system there. But I learned how to use the network and streaming all of my content, digitally. And a lot of my content came from the discs that I had. I would just rip them, throw them on the NAS, upload them through Plex, and a Plex server, and also my Zedu. I would add the trailers. Shout out to Haterade Cowboy. Before he became where he is at now, we had a couple conversations back and forth through Messenger. He was showing me how to upload the pre-rolls, and it was a bear. He pretty much got me close to it, but not completely over the hill. I stumbled on the formula how to figure that out. All right, but so now all of my movies that I use and I play, they go through the Plex media server, or they go through the Zedu. And we're talking about total immersiveness. I can create complete playlists that can last damn near 24 hours if I wanted to. And not only that, but I can actually, every TV in the house, I can stream the same content all at the same time.
Amazing.
Or if I had company in another room that wanted to watch something else off the server, they can very well do that.
And because of the way you have it set up, it's almost like your own personal Netflix. So if somebody who got a good internet, don't even live in town, but if they got your info, they can look at your movie from your server.
Absolutely.
Incredible.
And we're talking about, thousands of movies now.
Easily.
Yeah. So, and that includes commercials, because I make commercials as well. The pre-rolls, the commercials in between movies, and then it'll just jump right onto and I'm very humorous. So a lot of my movies that I may string together will have a hidden meaning in between. But that's just my humor.
Right.
If anyone who's on my Facebook kind of understand how my humor can go. So, but
no, it's very fascinating. And I, for one, I know the road you traveled to get to this point. Amazing. You took what I knew and gathered, and you just kept on going with it. And like I say, it's very, very impressive.
I appreciate it.
People really have to see what it is you actually do and what you know. And if they're interested in contacting you, their game room or their man cave, woman cave, whatever they call it, she shed.
Yeah, it's a she shed, I believe.
yeah, you can easily assist them with it, or help build the thing, you know, to whatever specifications they're looking for. They really, all they need to do really is to see this video, and they see exactly how you have it. And I, for one, would like to say it's just not just this room or the media room. You pretty much have 80% of the house hooked up like this. So very, very impressive. There's a lot of love and time and patience involved in doing all of this. And you, I think you pretty much mentioned every facet and it takes to run something like this, and the time it takes, because no one really too much assisted you. You did this all on your own, which is even more impressive. Because I'm looking at the risers. I mean, you set them up. They're not the lightest things in the world. You carpeted them. You just laid down carpet on the floor.
About an hour ago, I redid the platform in the back riser.
Yeah, he has steps on one side and a ramp on the other. So yeah, he did an amazing job from the ceilings literally to the floor. The hallway, and like I say, as I'm talking, you guys will see the other room and what he's done there with the computers and the different screens and such. He really studied his craft, and yes, he's given me a call a time or two, which is all good because, like I say, he's really putting it to incredible use. And if you look at the outside of the building, it's so unassuming you would never know what would be in here. And it just lets you know, just because you live in a certain area don't mean you're actually a part of the area that you're in. No one really would know. But I must say that hopefully people see this video, comment on it, and give you a shout out, fill up that email, and let them pick your brain or help them set up their own thing. It's very nice. Every time I come in here, it's something different.
It's part of it. You never rest.
It's part of growth. Yeah, I know.
You never rest.
Trust me, I redo a whole lot of things. So, yeah. But thank you, Coley, for your time and everything. But thank you guys for watching. This is my brother, for whom I'm well pleased. He's doing excellent work. But if you want to drop him a line, I'll put his email down there, and ask him questions, or set up a meeting with him, and he can get your place looking pretty much like this, or however you may want it. So with all of that said, thank you very much. Give me thumbs up, thumbs down, indifferent, give me something. Okay, YouTube counts it all. But thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this, and I shall catch you guys next time. Peace.
Take care.